and welcome to Soap Secrets. Joining me is expert Claire Ruck. Hi, Claire.
Hi, Hannah.
Now, we're going to talk of all things Casualty, like we usually do, to start with. And it's a pretty interesting episode, this one, isn't it?
Yes, it's really, really interesting. So I didn't want to give too much away last week, but we saw Faith take Angus home, didn't we?
We did. And we're not sure Angus is all he seems.
No. Well, at the end of that episode, he was leaving her in bed asleep, and he wrote a little post-it note in that romantic fashion men do. And then he went through her bag, Hannah, and he took her purse.
Rotter. Absolute rotter.
That is just horrible. He stole her purse.
So does she know? Is she going to find out?
So, well, she just gets up in the morning to go to work. She doesn't check her handbag. I'm not sure I would have checked my bag to see whether my purse was in there. You kind of check your phone, but you kind of figure your purse is there. And she goes to pay for coffee and can't find her purse, but she thinks it's dropped out and it's around the house. And then sweetly she texts him and says she had a great time, and he's blocking her number as well. So,
but presumably their paths are going to cross. This is going to be awkward.
I would imagine that where Casualty is, it's quite a small area, so she might well bump into him again. Yes. So he stole. At this point, she realises because she gets a call from her bank to say that actually he has stolen her purse, and she's really, really distressed about it. And it was her first dip into the dating pool after Lev's death. So she'd been trying to get over it.
It's just not worked, has it? I mean, her trust has been destroyed immediately after something that was probably quite difficult to come to terms with in the first place anyway.
Yes. And she's having a really, really bad day, because not only that, she has to deal with, I don't quite know how to say this, Hannah, it's a family podcast, but they have a couple, this is true, you see this, Ray and Tara, who have become stuck together during sex.
Have they got piercings?
No. She is the woman. Tara is a bit. She's het up and a bit stressed about something which we don't know, and her muscles have clamped around Ray. And they
is that even a thing? Can that happen?
Well, I didn't like to look it up, just because I was a bit worried about what pictures I would get back. So I'm guessing so, because Casualty do these things correctly.
Yeah, they'd have looked. Yeah, that's true. Actually, oh my God, that's an actual thing. That's unreal. Wow.
Yes. So poor. Yeah, so I don't quite know how they managed. I'm guessing that they must have got an ambulance to bring them in, because how else are you going to get into Casualty? And I thought actually they were a bit mean, because obviously poor Tara is stressed about something, and they say, well, normally your muscles relax naturally, but obviously if you've had to call an ambulance and you're in Casualty, I think drugs are needed at this point.
Oh, how embarrassing! I once knew somebody who actually worked within the this profession, and did tell me a similar story actually, but it was because of piercings.
Oh.
And the parents walked in.
Oh no.
Oh my goodness me. Okay, great storyline. Yeah. And she's got to deal with this couple.
She has to deal with this couple, and they haven't, Ray and Tara they're both a bit stressed, obviously. Funnily enough. And Tara makes a comment, and Faith takes it the wrong way. She thinks that Ray has pushed Tara into sex, and that's why Tara has become stressed, and that this thing has happened. She has tensed up, but she says something about it, and she judges a little too quickly. So exactly, we have to. I don't want to give away exactly why poor Ray and Tara in this predicament, shall we say? But it's a very sad tale.
Yeah, it sounds it. Gosh. Okay. Well, where do we go from here, Claire? So we see Iain the paramedic this week as well, don't we?
Yes. Yes. So he has to do a shift with his ex-girlfriend Chrissie, and he's not very happy. So just before Christmas, when we had that episode where we saw what went on in Christmas 2020, when Iain was still at Hems, and obviously he was working with Chrissie, who was at Hems, and we saw him rappel down a ravine to try and save people in a van. The van fell, and Iain nearly died, and Chrissie dumped him shortly after that because he was risk-taking, and they had a big row, and then Iain decided to come back to being a paramedic. So Chrissie needs a little bit of extra cash, so she's doing shifts as a paramedic, and some the gods must have not been smiling on the pair, because someone put them together. So they're sort of, he's not very happy about seeing his ex, because she sort of blanked him, wouldn't give him reasons as to why. He likes, Iain is a bit chatty, he likes to talk things through. So they attend a blast in the basement of a pub with a married couple, Tommy and Danny, who are doing this pub up. So Tommy has taken damage to his eyes and face. So we learn that both Tommy and Danny are army vets, and that Danny has post-traumatic stress
they're
disorder.
veterans, army veterans,
yes,
okay.
Yes, yeah. And she's self-medicating with heroin. And so to pay for this, Tommy, who loves his wife dearly, is making, I wouldn't know how to do this, is making bullets for the dealer supplying the drugs. So that's what he's doing in the basement when there's an explosion.
That's not good for somebody who's suffering.
Yes, so obviously, he's handling gunpowder, and this thing goes off. He's taken into Casualty. Iain and Chrissie are the paramedics responding, and Iain is also ex-army, so he has an affinity to this sort of thing, and he spots Danny's PTSD, Hannah, quite quickly, and realises that she is on drugs, and he reaches out to try and help her. She says she's fine. Obviously we can see what's the matter with Tommy. He's got wounds all over his face. We're a bit worried about his eyes, obviously, because of this explosion, and there was little bits flying around, and Danny runs off, and when they're outside the hospital they spot her again. She has said she's all right, but actually she's got a piece of metal in her back from the blast, and she collapses with blood loss. They do manage to get her in there, and while Iain is trying to save Danny, and has recognised her PTSD, has he missed someone closer to home who is also suffering from PTSD? Oh,
okay. There's two quite big storylines. One quite a serious one, and one, well, it is serious actually, but we did have a good laugh at it.
They do it very, very well. You don't see anything. There's lots of
good. I'm quite pleased.
Lots of sheets all around.
Oh, honestly, we're so childish. Right. Okay, Holby. Last week we saw Nicky not really coping at all, didn't we, and leaving Juliet in the car. And she found them, and it turns out that Amelia took Juliet home to give Nicky a break. But where is this going?
Well, this is very interesting, isn't it? And I do tend to start off Holby with Nicky's not coping, don't I? Every week.
Yeah.
So we left Nicky sitting under a tree, sort of in bits really, and Juliet in the car with the door open, so she wasn't under any risk at overheating. And yes, off screen, Amelia took little Juliet home, and this is very tricky. It's a very tricky place to be, because we know that Amelia and Eli have been having lots and lots of IVF. It had been unsuccessful. They'd had a pregnancy which hadn't taken, and she very sadly had a miscarriage about 6 weeks ago. So she's still very, very, very vulnerable, Amelia. And Eli, I think he's trying to be protective of his wife, and he tells Nicky that she must take Juliet back, because it's been now several days, and he can see his wife getting really attached. Hannah as anybody would do, and he doesn't want her to be hurt. Of which, because there's nothing in place, is there? They're just doing a favour, and the baby can go at any point, and then all of a sudden, Amelia would be left dealing with, all these feelings.
Yeah.
And she's in a vulnerable position, so he's trying really hard to prevent that. But by the end of the episode, I'm not going to give anything away because you really must see this because it's very, very, very distressing. Nicky has made a big decision.
Okay.
About little Juliet.
Oh no, is she gonna? I wish she'd just go and get help actually, rather than making some grandiose decision.
So, and that's not all because she has a really bad week. So she's on call, which in Darwin, and a lady called Patricia Cole is brought in, and she's been admitted with heart issues. And Nicky just goes, "My goodness, I can't treat her. Her father was one of Cameron's victims, and Cameron killed her dad, and Patricia is very distressed about being at Holby because her dad was killed by a serial killer there, and then she spots Nicky, knows that she's Cameron's girlfriend, and says, "I don't want her anywhere near me."
Yeah.
And as she would do, because she would think, "Do I want the girlfriend of the guy that killed my dad treating me for my heart issues?" So there's all this going on, and Patricia suddenly collapses and needs urgent surgery. So the matter is taken out of her hands really, and she can't give consent because she's unconscious. And Eli says, "No, I'll do it." But Jack is still treating Eli badly because Eli won't carry out this groundbreaking, untried, possibly operation that may save her from her terminal tumour. So she forces Nicky to perform the surgery, but we have to ask ourselves: does Jack have an ulterior motive?
Almost certainly. I would say so. And we see that Madge is broke this week because she can't even afford a drink in a cafe, can she? So things are really, really not good.
Yes. So we see her saying, "Could she have a cup of hot water, please?" She's on this funny fad diet, you see. So then she goes and sits down and pulls a tea bag out of her handbag and pops it in the hot water she's got for free. So obviously, if you're doing that, things are very, very bad, aren't they?
They are bad. That's bad times. And we need to keep an eye on Donna, I believe.
Yes. So this principal nurse is at breaking point. How long will she last? We see her everyone just asks her all the time, and then she's asked, she has to go away and pick something up for somebody, and everybody eats all the donuts in the break room and doesn't, she thinks no one saved her one, and she's just, I think she feels unloved and taken for granted, and this is going to go somewhere, Donna.
Okay.
And I think Madge will also go somewhere because she's broke, and Regina swoops in and offers Madge money to spy on Jack.
Okay.
So it's all big.
It's
big
all
stuff.
happening in the hospital wards, but I'm afraid that is all the gossip from us this week. We will be back next week with more. But in the meantime, enjoy them and keep an eye on all those tips that Claire's given us. We'll see you next week.